about the 5 workshops. You've actually developed some structures where people can actually go in and get that kind of experience, or have an environment where, a transformational environment where they can experience this and learn more. And I know that you've developed 5 workshops, and if you could just give people an idea, and give me an idea of the kind of workshops that you've developed just based on all of the wisdom that you've accumulated.
Sure. Right now we have 5. I do the workshops with my business partner, Greg Heffron, who comes from an arts background and who provides mudra space awareness exercises. And that is a series of trainings that he got from a man named Craig Smith, who studied with Chogyam Trungpa and with Claude Van Italy and Joe Chaikin and Peter Brook and Jerzy Grotowski in the open theater work back in the early 70s in New York and Paris. So Greg brings in kind of the artistic background, and I thought that was really important because I didn't want our workshops to be all about talking. I wanted them to include the nonverbal exercises. The other thing is that we bring people to a beautiful place that's right in the middle of town, just to show people that you don't have to go very far to find a genuine retreat. So we have this beautiful home designed by Arthur Erickson on Deer Lake that we rent, and it's literally only 20 minutes from downtown Vancouver. The location is very important because we really want people to be exposed to the elements and the magic of the natural world. Then basically all of the retreats are some variation of the 5 powers of mindful communication. We have the first retreat is the 5 powers, where we briefly introduce each of these 5 powers is associated with one of the elements. So, for instance, the power of mindful presence is related to silence, and it's related to space, like the inner space of your awareness and self-acceptance. The power of water, which is the imagining a clear lake that just reflects things accurately, is the power of telling the truth. Then the power of earth, which is very nurturing and so forth, is the power of encouragement, which is linked to leadership training, which we haven't developed that yet, but that would be one of the future workshops. The power of fire is related to unconditional friendliness, which is exploring the difference between attachment, love in a divisive attached way versus sort of a more universal love. And then the power of wind has to do with learning how to be responsive, listening to this natural communication system as a way of responding accurately to situations. One of the things that people talk about in the workshops is that we're all there to be helpful to others, but so much of the time we really don't know what to do, or else we act sort of prematurely. So, in the model there is a way of looking at how to respond. Anyway, so all of that is briefly introduced in the first workshop. In the second one, which we just did, we call it the chemistry of emotions, and we focus more specifically on the 3 lights, red, green, yellow, and how they have natural emotions versus the secondary emotions. So how the red light emotions create harm and how the green light emotions tell us what to do. So very simply, the green light emotions are all related to things as they are, whereas red light emotions are created by the mind out of fear, a simple distinction. And then the yellow light emotions are related to this vulnerability that I was talking about earlier. So that's the second one. And then we're going to be doing a new one this time at the end of April, which is called the Power of Peacemaking. And that's because in my writing the book, I was noticing that there are 4 stages to an aggressive conversation. If it goes all the way, it starts with complaint or criticism, and then it moves towards divisiveness, and then it moves further into blaming, and then it kind of comes to a peak with retaliation. And so I wanted to demonstrate how to interrupt that escalation, even in ordinary everyday conversations, as a way of working with peacemaking in the world, that particular workshop. And then we have a workshop called Unfreezing the Photo Album, which is a way of learning how to look at our spiritual autobiography and see that what is really authentic about our lives doesn't match the kind of story that most of us tell ourselves who we are. So, for instance, when I said, that my life had these 11 stages, which included falling apart, the falling apart stage is just as important as the coming together stage. And a lot of times people regard those falling apart stages as being like the shadows. So actually in the workshop we find that we don't want people to actually getting into telling their story because it's a little too intimate for that brief setting. So I'm going to follow that next time with a weekly class that will go on for a few weeks so that people will be able to explore their own storytelling. Then we have another workshop which is creating emotional green zones, and that's more specific about how to work with the transformative aspects of the model and how to basically build up circles of friends and create this intentional relationship. Originally when I had this idea, I was actually hoping that somebody like my 86-year-old mother could go to the community center and have a green zone. Like I imagined it being this, as I said, sort of a safety net for people when things fall apart in their life, that they would have a way of connecting with other people in a really meaningful way, not just talking about what was on TV last night. So that's part of what I was trying to do.
Again, by providing information, opportunity, and giving them the skills.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because without information and actually having the opportunity and having skills, it's difficult to do.